everybody, and welcome to Stars in the House. I am Andrea Burns, your guest host, kicking off Andrea Mondays last week. I'll be here every Monday night at 8, and we are so excited. We have a great show for you tonight, so thank you for being here. This, of course, is the platform begun by Seth Rudetsky and James Wesley, Drama Desk winners, along with Dr. John LaPook, for the entertainment and information they provided and during the pandemic and have been providing. I'm having trouble talking today, so I'm going to slow it down. For the Actors Fund, up to this point, they've been raising money for the actors. And now we've shifted our giving here at Stars in the House to the an education fund. So if you donate tonight, you are donating to America's premier legal organization fighting for racial justice. Through litigation, advocacy, and public education, LDF seeks structural changes to expand democracy, eliminate disparities, and achieve racial justice in a society that fulfills the promise of equality for all Americans. So certainly a worthwhile cause. You can donate here if you just donate to starsinthehouse@gmail.com. You can send your donation in there, you can pledge, and once you get a receipt, you can send it right back, forward it back to Stars in the House 2020. That's a little different, starsinthehouse2020@gmail.com. And if you make any donations tonight, we can give you a shout out at some point in the show. So we really appreciate your giving. We appreciate you being here. This has been such a full time for all of us, and it's always a pleasure to get together and celebrate music and friendship. And tonight, I'm very excited because we have a theme tonight. It's called Let's Grow. And I'm going to talk to some of my favorite people about growing up, growing in art, growing as human beings. And to kick that off, I put out a little message on social media today because I wanted to know about you guys. This has definitely been a learning curve for a lot of us right now. How have you grown in the past week? So I'm going to share some of the little responses with you in a segment I like to call Tell Me Something I Don't Know. How have you grown this week? What's something that has been new for you? So today we heard from Misha Golden at Little Cub Spirit on Twitter. They said, I've been working harder learning Spanish, as in working harder, learning Spanish, doing all I can, inspired by In the Heights, at least an hour a day. In the Heist. That's a robbery musical. Anyway, the next thing, so thank you for that, Misha. I'm proud of you. You've been learning a new language. I think that's fantastic. Next, Sophie Tedesco said, I have learned so much about the Black Lives Matter movement, and I continue to educate myself on how to be an effective ally, signing petitions, donating when I can, protesting alongside, and using my privilege to protect and assist the oppressed in this fight for justice. That is amazing, and thank you for sharing that. I think this is a big time. We're all going back to school on this, and it's wonderful to be learning so much and to be encouraging each other as we learn. There's so much to learn, and we can truly grow together. And lastly, Amanda Blake at Amanda the Blake says, how have you grown? With everything feeling so heavy lately, I haven't allowed myself to find moments of joy. I almost felt a little guilty being joyful. So now I am making sure to find daily moments of joy, no matter how big or small. I love this so much because you can't give from an empty tank, right? So that's part of what we're doing tonight. We're going to be sharing stories about growing. We're going to be talking about growing pains and growing triumphs, and also how to fill your tank with a little joy so that you can keep going and give in the way that you want to. So thank you so much for that. That's the Tell Me Something I Don't Know segment. Thank you. All right. So now it's my pleasure to introduce a dear friend who is a two-time Tony Award nominee and recently nominated for his incredible performance, nominated for a Drama Desk in his performance in The Wrong Man. My dear friend, brilliant performer, fellow educator, and just fellow truth seeker, Mr. Joshua Henry.
Andréa, thank you so much. Thanks for having me here tonight.
I'm so happy you're here tonight. I'm just seeing you is calming me down. I was a little bit on a caffeine high here, just like
in the heist. That could be the part 2,
right?
For real.
In the heist. Yeah, we got to work on that one. So thank you for being here today. I was so excited to have you on because obviously not only are you such a treasure in the Broadway community and so many people love and adore your talent, but I always like to let people know maybe things they don't know about some of my favorite artists. And you are so committed to growing into the best version of yourself.
Thank you. I mean, first I want to say, Amanda, I feel you on that. She mentioned, giving herself permission to feel joy. I think that's a really big part of this moment. We're in a fight right now as we grow, as we individually grow, as this country grows, as we're questioning what we've been, for hundreds of years and trying to create a new path forward. But if you're in a fight and you're, at the end, if you want to wave a flag, you got to have an arm to be able to lift it up with.
Correct.
So you've got to be able to, one thing that I've been thinking about is how am I taking care of myself in this time as I'm, shedding off who I was 3 weeks ago. Like I can't go back. I've grown into this whole other person. Like so many of us, we just, we're seeing what's going on. We want to find ways to help. And it's really challenging us. It's breaking our shells to evolve into, some of us have been artists for a while. Now we're taking on activism and we're exploring what that means. And so wherever we are, in whatever our ministry, our lane is, whether it's you're an actor, singer, or dancer, or you're out there protesting, walking the streets, you've got, I think it's important to think about, bringing yourself to this moment and saying, what do I have to offer? And for some people that's experimenting in different ways. Maybe that's donating to different causes, but there's no doubt that this is probably the biggest growth moment that I've ever experienced in my adult life. And I'm grateful for that.
Yes, agreed. So let me ask you this. People are feeling a lot, Amanda, clearly, but I know a lot of people are feeling nervous about self-care, right? Like we don't deserve to be doing that right now. There are so many people who are broken who we want to lift our voices for. And it seems very indulgent to do that. But, and I'm completely with you as far as we all have to find our way of showing up and giving. But yeah, what can we say to the people who are saying, I needed to take a nap today. I needed to play with my kid today. I needed to do something that sparked a little joy and reminds me of the best part of myself.
I think it's so important. It's why they say you've got to secure your mask before you help someone else's oxygen out. I use myself as an example. I've been home in this quarantine, with my son, who's 2 years old. Catherine is working, a couple of days a week, 12-hour shifts. So it's me and him. I'm trying to stay creative. I'm trying to educate myself on more about Black Lives Matter and, NAACP and all these different causes and just try to stay up to date so I feel useful. But it's taking so much of a toll. You know what I did? The other day, I had 40 minutes in a little nap time. Parents, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And I thought I could read another book. I could read another article. But the best use of my effort right now, so I can be the best I can for this fight, is to take a bath. I took a bath. I turned the lights off, and for 30 minutes, I put on some Sade. I lit a candle. Nothing will zen you out like some Sade. That must have been
yes. I give you all the love I got.
Totally, yes. But I realized, and when I did that, it was really a spiritual experience because I hadn't cared for myself so deeply, that intentionally, in a very long time. And so coming out of that, I felt refreshed. I felt energized to then give more of myself to the world. Like you talked about charging up your battery.
Mm-hmm.
That self-care is super important. I had to start going to bed at 10 o'clock again because I was staying up till 12:30 just
Right.
getting involved. And if you're spent, then you can't help, you can't serve the way that you want to. So take a bath, self-care.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Did you hear that? If you're spent, you can't serve.
Mm.
And what you want to do is serve. We're all in an act of service now. And it requires everything we have, but you have to find ways to recharge, to give back. That's amazing. Okay, so this is obviously a very big growth period for us as a people, but also you and I have had great conversations about growing as artists.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this amazing Maya Angelou quote that I want to share with you because I think it just speaks to what we love, which is, "We delight in the beauty of the butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty." So I think a lot of people look at you, 2-time Tony Award nominee, Drama Desk nomination for The Wrong Man. You're about to start rehearsals for Tick, Tick, Boom. You got a lot of fantastic things going on for you. And people and you're incredibly talented. How can you speak to the path there and how it isn't as smooth? I think a lot of people watching this, especially those students or aspiring young people who are coming into this field, sometimes think, well, you're done. You're perfect.
I get that. It's easy to look at something that is shining and be like, you don't even know where I am, or what I'm going through, and you just seem kind of untouchable. And I think with Grow With That, as I talk about it, part of my journey is talking about how I came up in the arts. I came in late in school. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what a musical was. I had to work really hard. And I always say that where I am is a result of grace and growth. From In the Heights, this was my first show with you, to Godspell, which was about to be right after. From 2007 to 2008, the stock market the crashed, and I was about to go to a different show.
Yeah, so let's tell that story. Let's unpack that for a minute for people who don't know. So Joshua was in the original company of In the Heights. We were doing that together, and I will say, even in rehearsals, we all were like, "Who is this guy? What's going on back there? This guy is really good." And so we knew he wouldn't be with us for long. He was in the ensemble and Benny understudy. And you got cast in a new production of Godspell that was coming to Broadway, right? Yes. And so you gave with a principal role. So you gave notice at In the Heights, which I know was hard anyway, because we had all worked so hard to get In the Heights to Broadway. And I know we were such a family. I know it was probably hard to leave for any reason.
It was really hard. And we just got news, I think, about that we won the Grammy Award. We already won the Tony Award. But for me, it was a step up to, go to a principal role. So again, big growth moment, uncomfortable moment. Do I take this leap or do I stay in this safe place? I decided to take the leap. 2008 happened where everything crashed. The marquee was up for Godspell. We were in our first week of rehearsal and funding went away. And so at an early age, I think I may have been like 23, I realized that the highs and lows of this business, right? Yeah. So early on, I saw that. So I couldn't go immediately back to In the Heights, and I was sort of in the middle of this valley. But I'm glad
we had hired a replacement for you, the wonderful Marcus Paul James, but that's a person who had a job. So that was done. You couldn't just jump back into your old.
I couldn't have been like, psych, I just want to get again. But you have these moments. I had a moment like that early on, and I'm glad that it happened because I had to ask myself, well, what really sustains me, in this business that changes so much, the highs and lows. There've been other moments where, for the nominee that I am, the Grammy nominee, the Tony nominee, like there might be an 8-month stretch or a 9-month stretch where you're not on Broadway. And I have to ask myself, well, who am I in those moments? What do I do to continue growing in those moments? And, I know a lot of people look at me and they're like, yes, amazing stuff. But I miss out on a lot of things too. And I think that's important to talk about. Weddings, friends. funerals, there are a lot of things that I sacrifice personally and in my relationships to give as much as I'm giving on stage. And so when you see someone shining, don't just assume that their life is perfect. There have been times when I've had, credit card bills higher than I wanted them to be, paying back student loans, wondering when I wanted to have, if and when I was going to have a child. So there are a lot of bumps along the way, and a lot of, just there are questions that you have. But I think for me, I've always thought about those moments, trying to view them as growth moments, whether I am injured or whether I am without a job. What can I do? Is it time to practice patience? What is it the season for? So that's kind of how that's helped me navigate those moments.
And, I don't think people realize either, there is an off season for us, but it's not like sports where we're all off at the same time going, great, during off season, I'll take care of myself this way. I'll travel this way. It comes when it comes. And would you agree that clearly, like the structure, the container of a production, rehearsals to go to, things to learn, things that are required of you, the physical requirements, that really helps to keep you in line. And when that is all gone, for instance, now, like in this quarantine, right? It's like you're not running so many miles on the treadmill every day because you have 8 o'clock hanging around your neck for that night.
Right.
You don't exactly stay in that amazing fighting shape. You have to fight really hard to stay in the shape that an 8 show a week, to stay in premium shape. And that's very challenging.
It's super challenging to stay in the physical shape, the mental shape, the discipline of maintaining your craft. What happened, I'll use myself as an example. When The Wrong Man finished last fall, and then we got into January, February here, I felt out of my element. I really felt like I didn't have the anchors that I usually have. And so I had to really go back to my foundation of, what's my North Star? And for me, that's God and that's growth. So where is the growth? How can I celebrate the growth that is happening right now? So fast forward to like, say, March, middle of a quarantine, I was still feeling that kind of just out of whack. I had to start getting my booty to bed on time, right? Waking up and developing structure again, whether it's 20 minutes of meditation to take care of my body. I just had a chart. I still have the chart on my fridge. I was like, I'm going to start with water. I'm going to do 7 glasses of water a day. And whenever I drink a glass, I'm going to mark it like that. And then I'm going to say, yes, Josh, you did something incredible for your body. And I got confidence again that I can take care of myself the way that I want to. Same thing with our art. But I think it starts with the little things.
Yes, and you have to put those things in place. There's almost like that principle of the infinite 1%, right? Because what we tend to do is, right, if you just do a little bit every day, that adds up.
Yes.
But when you sit back and say, oh, well, soon I'll get a show, and when that happens, I'm going to go really shut it down and really get ready and really hit the gym hard and 6 hours a day, and I'll never eat a carb again. And right. And it's magical thinking, really, isn't it?
It is. No, we can't wait for a destination. I love Tori Kelly's got a song called Confetti. And it says, I'm not waiting for the confetti to fall. Oof. I'm not waiting for the contract. I'm not waiting for the movie, the script, the album drop, for you to be the singer, the creator, the activist that you want to be. It's a challenge to live ready. But if the destination is growth, then you don't get exhausted. You don't feel like you hit a ceiling. You compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And then you gently, if you want to make a change, you gently steer. You're coming out of a lane, you gently steer back. So, it's a process, and we're all, some days it goes incredibly. Some days we're flat on our face. But even seeing those moments where we're just curled up in a ball crying like I was 2 weeks ago, and I think a lot of people were, that's a moment from which that is a fertile field. And then what seeds are we planting on that, and just recognizing that it's not a time to be, writing 50 scripts or 50 songs. It's a time to take advantage, take inventory of what your heart is saying, and listen to your feelings, and let people around help you. So, thinking about what the season is a big part of growth, I think.
Does growth have to hurt?
That's a good question. You know, it doesn't, I don't think it has to hurt. Unfortunately, a lot of us wait till there's a crack before we say, oh, I got to change something. That's kind of what we're seeing in this country right now, and we then think after the earthquake, okay, well, now it's time to, but I think there are ways that if we keep tabs on it, then it doesn't have to hurt all the time. Calling up.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying growth is strengthening your relationships, and that can be texting a friend. That can be just calling someone. How are you doing? You did that to me a little while ago, and that just was like, oh my gosh. And it didn't take that much to invest a seed of compassion and love into someone. So I think there are a lot of little things that we can do that don't have to make us bleed to grow. Well,
I guess what I want to offer too, though, is that we're really afraid of hurting any little bit.
Yeah.
Is there a way of making friends, of reframing some of this pain and knowing we're on our way to the butterfly. This is what it is. It doesn't mean everything's over. It doesn't mean, everything I knew to be true is no longer. I'm a horrible person. I feel like this is a time, especially where we have to be really open, clearly, and start to say, okay, like if it stings a little bit, will I be all right? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Because I know, and reframing, because I know there's growth on the other end, on the other side.
Amen.
I'm a bigger person on the other side than I can see now. So it might be worth a little pain.
Yes. I love that you said reframing. I believe that, growth is always, the other day, quick 10-second story. I was out in the park. It was cloudy, but I saw the sun poking through and I was like, come on, son, you come out. And I was with Samson and then I started laughing at myself and I thought, Josh, the sun has always been there. You're not coaxing the sun to come out. Beauty is always there. Abundance is always there. Growth is always there if we can recognize it. So when we're going through these hardships artistically, reframing, like you're saying, is so important because we're realizing that, oh, this resistance that I'm feeling is going to make me more resilient on the other side. It's going to give me a better tool. That's massive. Just reframing the experience as this is happening for me.
Right. Not to me.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard at some moments when you haven't worked for a while, or when you're like some people, they just graduated from conservatories and then they had to move. They're literally at home with their parents right now. And they're thinking, well, I have not, how am I growing? And those are the moments when you have to really look back and see and look around you and see what's possible there. Maybe it's this time for you to grow your relationship with your parents, or you need to spend time with yourself and work on patience or, resilience, or just know what it's like to be in one spot for a second.
Yeah. And certainly just to flip it, just for fun, because you and I love to do this.
Yeah.
Maybe what is causing the discomfort is an invitation.
Come on.
Okay. So I'm home from school. It's hard. I'm fighting for my independence. I'm so independent now, but now I'm living with my parents and that's rubbing. And why? Maybe that's an invitation for me to just look at that. Why am I so affected by XYZ? What can I learn here about myself in this situation? It's just interesting. Yeah, it's just interesting. I love to see that. Like, I just love to sort of do the math, work it out as a puzzle, because I do believe that everything, I believe in forces for good in this world. And then I'm always going to be the best possible version of myself, just not the way I planned. The lesson plan, I didn't get to write the lesson plan.
No, we don't.
Right? But I don't want to miss the lessons, right? So you and I can talk about this all day. I know I'd love to talk to you about this. So let's talk about grow with that and what that is. I just want to and tell everyone and do a little shout out to my my friends in New Zealand. I'm the associate director of a musical theater school in Christchurch, New Zealand, called Symptus. And in January, I brought Joshua Henry along as a artist, Broadway artist, to work with the kids, not only because I knew they'd be delighted and thrilled by his talent, but again, he's a wonderful teaching artist and has a lot to offer, especially young people, in the way of opening them up to growth. And so let's talk about Grow With That.
Well, Grow With That is a movement, and that I, sort of came up with about 3 years ago. In every show that I'm in, I try to just soak up as much information as I can. And you've got actors, singers, and dancers that have been in the business for 2 days or 20 years.
Right.
So I made it a point to go into those shows and soak up all the information. But Grow With That is...
That's you in New Zealand.
Yes.
That's
Grow With
right.
That is a movement that celebrates the mindful actions that artists take to live inspired lives. So it's just about taking the nuggets, the little bits of knowledge from everywhere, and how those, how that will enhance you as a person, and how that will then enhance your art. I think the relationship between ourselves and our art is something that we don't talk about that much, because we just think we are the art. We think about booking, we think about gigs, and we measure our value based on that.
Mm-hmm.
But, as Larson says, measure in love. What if we measured in growth? How do we really find artistic fulfillment? It certainly isn't a dollar amount, because we know people that are billionaires who are not happy,
Right.
And then, when we're low, what do we do to sort of find anchor? So Grow With That is just celebrating the growth mindset and the actions that different artists take to live that. And right now on my Instagram, Joshua Henry Official, I just started a new series of interviews with guest artists every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I take one artist for the week, and we get into just different topics of conversation. This week it's John Rua.
Yeah, I saw the first one today. It was fantastic.
Thank
so
you.
With the same artist
For the week.
Fantastic.
And on deck are Sierra Renee and our good friend Michael McElroy, who, just how are they maintaining, how are they staying hopeful and growing at a time when things feel so heavy? We need.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to tuning into that 3 times a week. I'm glad you are giving it to the world. It's beautiful. There he is. So you can look him up on Instagram at Joshua Henry Official, and he'll be doing these Grow With That interviews. And John Rua is someone who we worked with at In the Heights, who pretty much everybody in that company was a super stellar talent. And, our bench was very deep at In the Heights. If you would have come in and seen the entire company of understudies, you would have been blown away. And then if you came in and saw the entire company of second understudies, you're still blown away. And John played just about every role in that show, starting as a swing, then as a dancer, then ending up at Usnavi, and he's a formidable choreographer as well. And so check him out this week. So, my love, we'd be so honored if you would share some of your gifts with us, because you minister to us not only with your words, but with your beautiful music. So would you sing a little something for us?
I sure would. I want to sing this song because I know that Robin, we're going to talk to Robin a little bit, but Godspell was our first show, my first show in the city. And I think this song really just kind of signifies my hope, and I think all of our hopes for what this moment in this country can be, in this theater community can be. So this is a beautiful city. Out of the ruins and rubble, out of the smoke, out of our night of struggle, can we see a ray of hope? One pale thin ray reaching for the day. We can build Yes, we can. We can build it. A beautiful city, not a city of angels, but finally a city of men. We may not reach the ending, but we can start slowly but truly mending, brick by brick, heart by heart. Now, maybe now, we start learning how. Oh, we can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Oh, we can build a beautiful city, not a city of angels, but finally a city of men. When your faith is all but shattered, when your hope is almost killed, we can give up bitter and battered. We can slowly start to build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city, not a city of angels, but finally a city of men.
Thank you, my friend. Oh my gosh.
Pleasure.
So
Thank you.
beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's bring out our dear pal, shall we? One of our great friends, Joshua, of course, did one of his first shows in the city with him. We did Heights together. Two-time Tony Award nominee, the wonderful Robin de Jesus.
What up? ¿Qué lo que
Hi.
What up?
Welcome, honey. I'm so glad you're here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's so good, Joshua. There's some stuff in there we gotta talk about later.
We're gonna talk.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I know. Just musically, so incredible. I'm so happy you're here. So obviously, Robin is another person that I share a lot of personal growth, spiritual growth conversations with. In fact, like once we were in quarantine, I actually put together a little group of, I just wanted to reach out to a group of friends that I know are just sort of trying to seek, like, what is the big picture of this? What are the lessons? What are the lessons coming from all of us locked in our apartments in New York City? Like, what is it, all of us losing our jobs? How can we, again, like, what's the lesson in the pain, right? And so I have a group of friends that I talk to a lot about this, and I put them together in a little chat called Seekers. And Robin was on there, and we would check in about once a week and just talk about what we were grateful for, what we were feeling challenged by. And you've just always been a brother to me in that. And so I'm so grateful that you're here. And we've always been bonded. It's so funny because I feel like we're so bonded in a serious way. But I think like one of our main bonds when we first met was when it is just knowing that in the Heights, like no matter how emotional and beautiful and deep the Nina and Benny story got and the family story got, like we had to bring out the funny, you and me. And we just always, we like shared that burden together, and we'd be like, all right, what we got to do to lighten this up?
Nurse. We were both playing the nurse in Romeo and Juliet, honey. Both of us, you know?
So, right. So that was something that really just bonded us. And Right. And then we ended up becoming friends and talking about things that are so much deeper than that. But comedy is a high art too. Comedy is part of my religion too.
Yeah. And comedy also comes from pain as well. You know, it's a defense mechanism. It's developed. It's a way to find joy against obstacles. I remember having a teacher in 7th grade. He was my social studies teacher, Mr. Zaluccio. He was amazing. And, you know, I was like a little effeminate boy who was an easy target, you know? And one of the things that I realized was, oh, if I like 8 Mile this before I ever saw the movie 8 Mile, like if I basically
wait, what does that mean?
What I mean is like if I basically call out your punchline and it's my joke before you get to it,
got it.
You have no currency. And actually I've won the currency because now I have something to offer, which is my comedy, you know? And I remember I never clocked that there was like there was like math to it, you know? And then it was Mr. Zaluccio one day. He was like, he goes, you look at this guy right here. He's like, see, he makes fun of himself. He gets it. I was like, oh, I guess I was doing something, you know?
Yes, and you're not alone. I mean, I think a lot of very funny people used it as a way of just sort of like deflecting.
Yeah.
You know, but it actually ends up being, I think it makes you really flexible and really smart, but then you actually have to sort of look back and be like, yeah, but I'm actually amazing.
Word. Yeah. I love that.
The people who love me and the people I value in my life, I'm actually an amazing person. And yeah, as you are to me. So obviously we're talking about growing in art, growing as a human right now. I know you're also very active in everything that's going on. And you and I have shared a conversation about finding, you know, how do you find your way in this to help as a human through your art? There's this tweet I saw on Twitter that really spoke to me. Here it is. Resistance, and that is, sorry, I'm covering to see it. It's Linda's Tastic who tweeted it. Resistance is not a one-lane highway. Maybe your lane is protesting. Maybe your lane is organizing. Maybe your lane is counseling. Maybe your lane is art activism. Maybe your lane is surviving the day. Do not feel guilty for not occupying every lane. We need all of them. So, it really spoke to me, and I wanted to share it with both of you because there are definitely people out there, very front lines, being very strong and fighting the hard fight at an 11, and we need them to do that. And yet, how do you take what you have to offer and how do you channel your gifts in service during a time like this?
Honestly, you say guilt, and guilt right now has been one of the big themes overall for everyone. And the thing that I think about, and I know you know this quote, I don't remember if it's Brene Brown or Elizabeth Gilbert, but one of them says, guilt is fear masking itself as nobility.
Okay, one more time.
Guilt is fear masking itself as nobility. It is a way for us to go, I feel bad. I'm so good. You know?
Right, or I'm so scared. I don't want to admit that I'm scared. So if I act like I'm offended by my own fear, I'm above it.
I mean,
I'm not really in it.
There's so many manifestations of it with guilt. And I mean, we could go in on that for a couple hours, but like, you know,
let's make it a guilt hour on Stars in the House.
But it's funny. It's like once you clock what that is and you can name it, then you can be proactive. So like I had a moment last week where I moved and I wasn't on social media. I wasn't reading all the news, and maybe that was a blessing for me. I needed perhaps like a bit of a break because so much is coming up for everyone, and I've been to a few protests and I hadn't that week, and I felt guilty about that. And then I realized that like that wasting time in that guilt wasn't productive either. Mm-hmm. I think there's a part of me that was kind of like, oh, you feel bad, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so clock that ego stuff coming up too, you know. And I have friends that are finally awakening to these conversations that we've been having for so long, but now they fully see it. And they're so focused on the past that they're awash with guilt, but that sitting in that guilt is not letting them move forward.
Agreed. I mean, the shame is not, that's a dead end. There's no way out. There's no way forward. And that is something I think a lot of people are struggling right now, is going, oh, well, I guess this means I must be a bad person, which once again, like, how does that, how do you get up in the morning thinking that?
100%. But what I always say is, in regards to what's happening in the socio-political climate now, you know, there is a we all inherited racism. And so, like, no one's safe from it.
Right.
I think once you operate under that, you can give yourself some forgiveness. Be like, oh, this was taught to me, and now I have to unteach it. And I think there's a bit more forgiveness if you can clock that, as opposed to going right to, oh, I'm a bad person.
Right, and it was taught to me, and not necessarily in overt ways at all. Just in the system that I lived in the world that I lived in.
I mean, what color were the dolls you played with when you were a kid?
Right. I had a black doll because my grandfather, who was Jewish, but always worked in the sun and was incredibly tan. And I liked that my doll looked like my grandpa. But again, I was, in a way, just even seeing dark skin, like, I connected, like, oh, that's just something about somebody else I love, right? Yeah. Whereas, I was lucky in that way, even though it turns out he wasn't even black. But is that kids are not taught, right? You start going, even if you grow up in the most, open, I don't want to use political terms here, but just open family that believes in inclusion for everyone, equality for all, just the way the world works has informed your way of seeing it. And we are all now trying to see through fresh eyes.
Yeah.
And fresh eyes are good. Fresh eyes doesn't mean the last pair was bad. It served a purpose, and fresh eyes are good now.
100%. And it's funny, I've been hearing a lot of my friends say things like, oh, I'm scared about when we get back to whatever the new normal is of transgressing. And they're scared of that moment of being called out on something. And I like framework a lot. That always helps me. And so one of the things that I'm realizing now is, like, if I get called out on a transgression, I'm not going to call it being called out. I'm going to call it someone handing me enlightenment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend who, was being handed some feedback.
Yeah.
And, and so I was just like, well, being called out was the language that was used. And I think that's a really important thing. Words are so powerful, right?
Words are powerful.
The whole game. It's like, oh, I got some feedback from before. And as I'm learning to be a better person, maybe this is feedback that's just, it's information, it's power, right? It's something that will help me along the way. But calling people out, you're right, that's just it's.
May I add something to that?
Yeah.
The other big theme for me this past week has been, I've been talking about this a lot with my POC friends, which is, I'm hearing people also get very, very scared of the getting called out and the cancel society that we sometimes live in, right?
Say more about that.
Okay. So, I mean, I won't go into cancel culture too much, but what I will say is this. The POC people that I have in my life, the community that I have, when you make a transgression, acknowledge it, accept it, and execute change, you are always welcome back with love. So there's nothing to be scared of in being called out or enlightened other than the work. The idea of getting defensive and trying to figure out a way to get out of this so that they can't call you racist or whatever, like, right, that's quicksand. You're going down. You will be canceled if that's what it is. But if you approach that with humility and take a second to accept that maybe you could be wrong, or that instead of being angry, it's more of a how fascinating. And question it, because those questions are what's gonna get the monologue going, and that's where the work really, really is. So I hope that people stop approaching this with fear and approach it with like work ethic.
Right. Which, circling back to the pain factor, which hurts a little bit. When you go to the gym, it hurts at first.
That's a big part of this moment. Yeah. Part of like, understanding, yes, it's an opportunity to grow. I'm not wrong necessarily for not knowing what I didn't know. Right? I'm not a bad person for that. I don't have to hold that over my head, that guilt that you're talking about. But now, look, if I want to if I want to go do a 5K, I can't just sit on my hands. I have to understand that I'm going to get uncomfortable. I'm going to have to stretch in ways. And that's an opportunity to grow. That's also going to bring people together, that's going to help you serve more. I think it's a great time for us to really, collectively, like, be aware of who we want to be first and foremost. We're in this fight, so it's kind of hard. We're figuring two things out at the same time. But we want to serve, we want to care, we want to love, we want to grow. But our ego and I didn't do anything wrong gets in the way. And so it's trying to hold on to those higher thoughts while all of this is going on is the challenge, and that's the work.
Well, and that's why I really wanted to have you guys on, because like I want to bring growing up back.
Yeah.
Growing pain.
It's all you want to do when you're a kid. And then you have this idea that once you hit a point of adulthood, like you should know everything in the world by now. You should be perfect by now. And anything that you don't know now is a liability, is a problem, is a defect of you. Right. But we're all here until the day we die to grow. And I want to, I celebrate doing this with you, and I celebrate you bringing that idea back. Growing is good. Growing is good. It's not just good for you. It's good. It feels good. It feels good when you finish that 5K, knowing you were on the couch eating potato chips 2 months ago. It feels good.
Yeah.
So that we aspire to grow, to be able to look back and say, look how much I've grown in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It makes sense, right?
Hey, what I just thought when you said that was everyone should watch Grace and Frankie. Because one of the things I love about that show is like there is a humility in knowing that like you won't ever really be perfect, or you won't always feel like you have it together. And like there's something really humbling about that, and also very like you're not as mean to yourself, I think, if you can clock that. I just want to add something to what y'all were saying about does growth have to hurt? And I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that growth does not have to hurt as much. I think resistance to growth and the unawareness of the power of surrendering is the part that we forget. And if you sometimes just surrender to what is, it might still hurt, but it's not going to hurt as much.
As the resistance, which always hurts so much more. You running away from the pain hurts so much more than the pain itself. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I promised everybody a little joy tonight too. So I want to bring this back to something that brought the three of us a lot of joy, which is In the Heights. And our very, very happy time there together. I'm going to kick this off with a little clip. Robin, who of course was Tony nominated it was his first Tony nomination for his performance as Sonny, his unforgettable performance as Sonny in The Heights. Then actually you went on to play Usnavi a few years ago at the Only Theater, correct?
Yeah, I love that.
And so you've offered a lot to the project throughout. That's all I'll say. And now I'm going to share a little clip of Robin.
Lights up. on Washington Heights. Up at the break of day, I wake up and I got this little punk I gotta chase away. Just breathe. Hey, I'm home.
The elevator strained by my window doesn't faze me anymore. The rattling screams don't disrupt my dreams. It's a lullaby in its way. Then can I say I couldn't get my mind off you all day?
That video clip is on YouTube, by the way. It's called Ramen de Jesus is in the Heights.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Right? From quarantine and everyone's gonna be operating Broadway shows out of budget cuts. I'm gonna do the One Man in the Heights.
I think you can. I think you can. And it just so speaks to, I mean, the three of us also share that we're just such nerds about the work.
Yeah.
And certainly watching you at that time, and you were very young, and you were just like, ooh, that sounds good. I want to sing that. That sounds good. I want to sing that. Let me put that in my voice. Let me put that in my voice. Another memory I have actually of that time, Joshua, do you remember off Broadway when we used to sit around with Alex Lacamoire and do sing-alongs? We'd pull out the score to Floyd Collins. Yes. And just like, I mean, what a joyful time to be around so many people. This picture, as a matter of fact, is the first time that we did the SITS probe and heard the big, the climax of 96,000.
Yeah.
That's Alex and Lynn jumping in the front. And then we were just, you see like hands in the air. People were just flipping out because it was the first time we heard the music with the orchestra all together. That's all right. You can bring us back. That I love that though, because that you see all the joy in that photo, and that is.
Can I share something?
Yes.
I'm laughing at that photo. It's one of my favorite photos ever, but I'm laughing because I'm rocking a Sean John shirt, and that was before I knew. Yeah, you see that?
Yeah.
That Sean John shirt is an extra large from the kids department because I didn't realize that I could buy adult size clothing and get it tailored. So I was always in the husky section, just trying. Like, I think this would fit a size 18 to 20. That'll work. Yeah.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious. But I just love the way like that just became such a signature thing for all of us, is just being in a state of joy when we were all together.
I've never experienced that joy like that. I remember that moment, and I have that literally. I have that In the Heights record right in front of me. That moment right there, right in 96,000, I was like, oh, this is pure joy with people who appreciated it as much as I did. That was like, oh, wow, I found my place.
Yes.
And you know what it is about us and that experience, because we did have so much joy. I heard someone in a podcast that I love the other day talking about this, and it's like the POC experience has trauma in it, But part of like the antibodies of that trauma is that we have to find joy. It is embedded in our culture. We have to be joyous. We have to resist it.
And in fact, I mean, that's something that I think is so beautiful about Carnaval del Barrio, And I remember having a conversation with Andy Blankenbuehler about it, because he was thinking like, maybe we'll cut the dance break, and I said, you have to understand, like, this is what we do, it's either go the way Sonny and Vanessa go, which is, oh my God, we're powerless. The world's against us. We're disenfranchised. It's, we have no hope. Or this is a mess. Let's put on some music and throw a party. Because it's a way of rallying, right? Of coping. There's strength. I think Andy was like, I don't know. It just seems kind of light. I was like, no, the strength is in the party. Oh, we will have a party. And we will have the best party, and we will be so lifted by that party. This street will be immaculate when we're done, right?
That paradox is so good to watch.
That's beautifully said. So speaking about geeking out with the music, I want to share a story about the privilege I had of being backstage. Janet DeCall, who played Carla, and myself would be backstage with Joshua at a certain point in the show. We were waiting to come on stage for not Paciencia y Fe proper, but right before it, I think. Or no, we had sung Paciencia y Fe backstage. I don't remember. But we were all back there, and we were waiting to make the next entrance. And we're all ready to go on stage, and Mandy and Chris Jackson are singing When You're Home. Nightly, this man used to treat us to a private concert. While those two were singing their brains out, he would be delighting us with this impeccable ear he has, his knowledge of music, and his joy. So this is what I call Joshua's party trick, and I asked him to do it for you here on Stars in the House. So since we don't have Mandy Gonzalez and Chris Jackson tonight, you are going to play the OG cast recording.
Sure.
And you will do what you did in the wings.
Okay.
Every night?
Yes. Thank you. I love that moment so much. Like, this is, so it's that moment where Nina and Benny, you know, should I play the moment first?
Sure.
Here. So I'll play the moment of music that she's talking about that we used to listen to backstage.
Where am I supposed to be? So please don't say you're proud of me when I've lost my way.
Then can I say I couldn't get my mind off you all day? Now listen to me, that may be how you perceive it. But Nina, please believe that when you find your way again.
So that's the section. And so I would just do different songs over it, just like off the top of my head. So I'm going to do a little piece for you now till the end. This is what we used to do. Whoops.
It would be different every night. And he would just sing softly in our ear backstage and do this every night.
So please don't say you're proud of me when I've lost my way.
Then go out and tell your story, let it echo far and wide, make them feel. Listen to me, that maybe raise your foot, now that's the way. Nina, please believe that when you find your way again, we've got magic to do. Just for you, wait for me, I'm coming. Wait for me, I'm coming home. I love you time and again. I'm trying to say never enough, never enough,
Yes! Yes!
Oh,
Robin, can you even believe that?
you know what? And the thing is, it gets me every time. But I just have to say, the one "Make Them Hear You" got me at that time. I wasn't ready for that.
Me neither.
But you know what my all-time favorite one is?
What was that?
Patterns in My Mind.
Okay. So Patterns is a song from Baby. Was it Maltby Shire?
Yes. Yes.
Nobody knows that. I mean, it's a very obscure song, but you know,
Not to those of us a little about 10 years ahead of you. We were all
the roots are very deep.
Yeah. Oh, so good, so good. And by the way, for those of you watching right now, we had a sound check, and he did all different songs for the sound check. So that is just, I just love that so much. Thank you for sharing. Oh, this makes me so super happy. Well, my loves, I'm so grateful that you're here. Oh, I have a donation to read out. Good news. For the NAACP LDF tonight, John Beckley has given $150. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for that. I'm so glad you guys were here, and we will grow and we will move forward, but we do this in love, and we do this in love for the art, and we do this in the love that we have for each other, and in the love that we believe can permeate the world. And I just thank you for being my fellows in that. We're arm in arm in that together. And so thank you for giving us your time and sharing and being here with me on Stars in the House. I love you. Mwah.
Love you too. Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon. So that wraps up our time here. Let's grow. Let's go out there and remember that everyone just wants to be, ultimately, everyone wants to be seen and heard and loved. And we are all finding our way to that. And don't be afraid to fill your tank. Like we said, you're here to serve, and you're here to bring the light. And I will finish up today by saying, listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds, try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears, go ahead, release your fears, stand up and be counted, don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser, you gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. See you next week on Andréa Monday. Joshua, why don't you take us out?